Oh yeah, I'm like a stalker, you know.
The DJ Stalker. I hope that's on your website.
Maybe go back to '70s and do like Billy Joel or do some Van Morrison, and I mix it up and then I watch. Would you like me to play to the crowd? Because you're probably going to be off taking pictures.
Welcome back to another Mobile Music Thursday, where we talk to DJs all across the country, mobile DJs, and find out what are they playing, what's working, what's not, how do they approach their playlist, how do they create their playlist, and how do they create the magic. As Chris Cooper once put it, the DJs are like these crazy mad wizards that can take music and put it together and make something really magical. So we get to talk to another crazy mad wizard on the show today, and I just like mad wizards. So it really works for me. Anyway, my guest today you are going to love, and I'm so excited to have her on the show. Her name is Courtney Hampton, and she owns a very successful entertainment company, DJ entertainment company, in Breckenridge, Colorado, also servicing Denver and the rest of the state of Colorado. Very successful company, growing from a single operation to a multi-operation, and she's been a DJ for 14 years now. Really crazy in creating amazing experiences and amazing events for people through the magic of DJing. Courtney, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jason.
Hi, it's great to have you here. Tell me, I'm going to start the show a little bit different than I usually do. Can you tell me why are you a DJ? Why do you choose to DJ for a living? Because you do this as your full-time job.
Yeah, because I can't find anything else that's more fun.
That's a good enough reason, right?
Yeah, I love music, and I love being around people, and it feels good, you know. I have a degree in accounting, and that sounds really boring. And so after I graduated from college, I went to get an accounting job, and they weren't paying very well, like $7 an hour, and you couldn't just go be a CPA. You had to work in a tax office.
Okay.
I'll just keep DJing for a while, and here I am 14 years later.
Right, you turn around and go, oh, I guess I'm a full-time DJ.
Well, I did it actually. I graduated college in '04, so I did it through college to put myself through college, and then I did it after college, and I kept thinking I would get a real job, and then this turned into a real job, so I didn't need to do that.
And crazy that like DJing is now your real job, like that you get to call that a real job.
I know.
Isn't that awesome? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at that 14 years of experience that you've put together entertaining audiences behind the DJ console and out in front of the DJ console. So when you go to an event, and with everybody that I talk to, I know it really depends on the audience and that sort of thing. So I want you to choose an event that you really enjoyed. And when you went to that event, then what was your game plan going in? Like kind of what were you expecting to do? And then of course, then after that happens, we just do what we're going to do once we get there. So what is your game plan going in musically?
So my game plan starts with the ceremony, and really for the ceremony, we have it pretty much picked out if the clients care. If they don't have a preference on what we're going to play before the ceremony, I go by what their walk down the aisle songs are going to be.
Sure.
So if they're playing like a piano song, then I go in that direction. And it's really when people are getting there at the very beginning, you just want to have some energy. So some music.
The preamble selections.
Yeah. So a lot of times I'll go in the direction of what I like to play, which is like Louis Armstrong and Etta James. But if they're walking down to a classical song, I'll switch it up so that it flows, so that it feels like there's not this abrupt change. So it really does depend on the client, but I take that direction and then I create something for them. Then cool. For the cocktail hour, I like to do songs that people know but would maybe not dance to.
Okay, so like what might that be? I mean, like top 40 songs that are that medium tempo that you can't really dance to them, but yet they're still upbeat and happy?
Yeah, and I stick to love songs mostly for weddings. So, Jason Mraz, maybe some Mumford and Sons, maybe go back to '70s and do like Billy Joel or do some Van Morrison, and I mix it up, and then I watch. And so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll play a song and I'll look around and I'll see if people are like bobbing their heads
Uh-huh.
or they're noticing, even though it's very subtle.
Sure.
And if I see something's working, then I go with it.
Okay,
So,
so this is even during cocktail hour. You're seeing what is getting the most positive responses.
oh yeah, I'm like a stalker, you know? I'm like,
The
what
DJ
did you
stalker. I hope that's on your website.
Yeah. So
The musical stalker in the room.
yeah, and usually my clients give me that leeway. So they may say, "We love Mumford and Sons." And then
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, "Well, what about, your parents and their friends?
Yeah.
You think they even know who they are?
Right.
Would you like me to play to the crowd cuz you're probably going to be off taking pictures?" And then they'll say, "Oh, yeah, 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 whatever you think." And 90% of the time that's what they say. Once in a while they're like, "No, we only want modern rock."
Sure.
And then we go that way.
And you take that direction.
Yep.
Cool. All right. So you've gotten through cocktail hour. You've gotten through dinner. Now it's time for the dance to begin.
Okay, so toward the end of dinner, what I do is, dinner's pretty subtle. Right in the heart of dinner, I try to play more instrumental songs. And then as dinner's ending, I usually bring the tempo up to like mid-tempo, like Motown is kind of a mid-tempo. Stevie Wonder, again, things that people know. And it's subtle, but it kind of creates an energy shift. So
Okay.
people
So you're kind
know,
of bringing it up like we're gonna get funky here soon.
yeah, like something's changing. And then I've taken some courses and I was surprised that a lot of DJs will start after the first dances with a slow song. I typically don't do that. I typically hit it with something fast, something that I think everybody will come out to.
Okay, before we get too far along, I want to ask you about something in particular that you said when you said instrumentals. So when you refer to playing a lot more instrumentals, is that like instrumentals of popular songs, or
Because
is that or what are you referring to specifically?
sometimes it could be instrumentals of popular songs, like Vitamin String Quartet, things like that. Sometimes it's classical. Sometimes it's piano music, and I take direction from the clients
Sure. Well,
on that.
that choice doesn't necessarily sound like that. So you have selections in there that are a lot higher energy. Just when my default brain goes, I think that's like that classical is. I have this opinion in my head about classical that it's sleepy, and I know there are classical selections that aren't sleepy, but it's like but so you found selections that have like a good energy to them, as well as fit that genre.
Well, I would say yes, and I agree that classical is a little sleepy. So, I only do that if that comes up as something that they're into. Like
Okay.
I had a bride who was a classical pianist. For her, that was perfect.
Yeah.
Sometimes what I'll do if they're really hip and they're into like techno style music, then I have or like jazzy hip hop neo soul. I have
Mm-hmm.
all these really great songs that are instrumental, but they're like jazzy hip hop kind of versions of styles of songs.
Jazzy hip hop neo soul. Just from that description, I want to hear that.
Oh my gosh, that's my favorite kind of music. I really like it.
All right,
And
well, I'm gonna need a list.
okay.
Okay, because this is like I'm hearing that is like how I perked up when I heard electro swing. I must hear more. So good. All right, so I'll get a list from you at the end of the show. So anyway, continue.
Hang on, my dog is whining.
Oh, poor puppy.
There we go. She wants on her bed. So yeah, so it really depends on the couple. So I try to figure out what they're like, and I talk to them a lot about what their friends and family are like,
Mm-hmm.
and I watch. Like I said, I've been watching all through cocktail hour, and so I come up with a game plan on the fly most of the time.
Okay, so let's go back to one of your one of your events that you remember well, and kind of walk me through how that night went and the choices that you were making. So the dance got started, and then you said you like to start with something a lot higher energy, like let's get this party started. Not specifically that song, but
Right.
with that intention.
Well, okay, so you know what I'm thinking right now about Veronica and Jason. They were one of my favorite couples of the whole summer.
Cool.
And it was not typical of what I even expected to play. They loved Motown and that kind of music. So we started off with Stevie Wonder. Everybody came out on the dance floor.
Which Duke of the Duke of
Sir Duke.
Sir Duke. There, that's what I was searching for.
I think it was actually Signed, Sealed, Delivered.
Signed, Sealed, Delivered. Yeah, that's a great one. And actually, that's more popular than Sir Duke. I think that my favorite bias is coming out.
I know. I love that song, too. Because that is a sleeper. People don't even know they know it.
Yeah, right. Totally is.
But I thought that I would move into more hip-hop at the end of the night. And it just, like, I played a few, and it wasn't what they wanted. You know, they weren't really into like the older 70s music. You know, like I played old time rock and roll. They went crazy. It was one of those nights where Shout got everybody on the dance floor.
So they were really digging the oldies.
Really, yeah. And so I had a plan. And then I changed my plan.
Well, right, and that's what I'm interested in is how you responded or how you reacted. So what are some of the hip hop songs that you kind of threw out there to see how they would react to it or see if they would get excited or not?
Well, I remember like somebody had requested Katy Perry, and I played a Katy Perry song, and like half the people walked off the dance floor.
Really, like some of Katy Perry songs are like girl anthems, like Roar. That usually. Or is at least their girl this could be a regional thing too, because like up here they're like it's what I categorize as a girl anthem where they'll all go out and sing the song and it's like, you know, kind of empowerment, yeah, and it's like really cool. But does that happen there?
Yeah, and typically it does. This was like an unusual wedding, you know, and even the girls were the ones asking me to play those songs, and then, you know, I guess some of the younger girls were staying out there, but it really wasn't going over as well as I had expected.
Yeah, you're discovering that was only playing to a very small group at the wedding.
Right. And I had another wedding with this lady named Electra. She was so cool. And she had put on her playlist a lot of like Hall & Oates, things like that, and I expected it to go in that direction. And as the night progressed, all they wanted to hear was hip hop. And I mean, the grandmothers were dancing. It was awesome.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So, you know, you make a plan and then you just go with whatever happens.
Right. You really tune into it. So, so when you threw out, the reaction to the hip hop tunes, and when you throw out your hip hop, do you like start in the 90s? Do you like do the stuff like This Is How We Do It? And, the one, like, in other words, for really familiar, or do you go with something like really new?
When I do hip hop, I go with the newer stuff first, and
then
the
interesting.
90s comes later typically.
Why do you go with the newer stuff first? Because I would think that would be less familiar.
I don't know. It just seems to work. You know, people know what, and maybe it's not hip hop, maybe it's top 40. You know, like an anthem for us is "Call Me Maybe." I mean,
still.
like,
Wow.
girls go crazy. I don't know. Little girls get out there and women get out there. Every time I play it, I'm like, oh God, I don't know if this is gonna work. or that Icona Pop song.
I Don't Care.
Yes, like it's insane. And my head DJ Katy, the first time she said to play that, I was like, really? Like I didn't think I would have never played it. And every time I played it this summer, it packed the dance floor.
Everybody's nuts. Was there just a little digression here, but did you notice if there was, like, over the summer that you were playing all the events, was there a song that was requested that we would consider like the song of the summer? Ariana Grande like charted like crazy, like in downloads all summer long. But nobody that I talked to said that was any of her songs are really coming up. Iggy Azalea came up as a possibility in terms of a song for the summer with Fancy, because that was just kind of like the recurrent play over and over and over song of the summer. Is there anything that stands out that's a newer song for you?
Well, the newer song, Turn Down for What?
Yes.
That was really popular.
Would you say that was more popular than Talk Dirty?
Yeah, I played it a lot more than Talk Dirty.
Really? Wow.
So, but the song of the summer, which is crazy, it's not a new song, but we played it at almost every wedding, was Don't Stop Believin'. I couldn't believe it. It was on everyone's playlist, and everyone had it as a must play. And I think it even made like number one, or it was up there on the top 200 list.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm not surprised at that. I mean, all the DJs that I talk to on this show, Don't Stop Believing comes up. My guess, my speculation is that it has become the new You Shook Me All Night Long. That one was like the closing. You couldn't do a show without playing that. It'd be like, what? You'd be fired. You're like, you're fired. You didn't play that song, and now like that's being replaced by Don't Stop Believing. More couples have asked me to say, we want to close our wedding with that more than, because I say, how about You Shook Me All Night Long? And they're like, nah. I'm like, Don't Stop Believing. And they're like, oh, could we? I'm like, yeah, wow. And I don't really know what, I mean, it's a great song, but what makes it that great of a song,
Well, I personally think it's a great end song because one, everyone knows the words, and
Yep.
people love to sing, and two, like I always think nobody's going to dance, but they do, and couples get out there and dance, and single people get out there and dance.
Yeah.
Some people just stand around and sing. I think it has something for everybody.
No.
It's like one of those lip sync air guitar kind of songs.
Yeah, exactly. Like the time to throw out the inflatable guitars, if you do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So let's back up earlier in the dance. So you began the dance and you started with like a lot of Motown and a lot of oldies, and then you stayed in the oldies. Now, when you threw out some newer hip hop songs that they didn't really gravitate to, people weren't really digging on it, and then did you immediately go back to oldies?
For that one particular wedding, which wasn't typical, I did. I went with what worked.
Yeah.
And as a DJ, you can get caught up in playing like the new hip hop, and all the young people are out there, and it feels like you're packing the dance floor. But what I do is I look around and I go, oh, well, look at all these people on the outside, and they look really bored. Let's get them on the dance floor. So we switch it up, and usually, and I learned this from Mitch Taylor a long time ago. He mentioned that if you play a slow song at like 5 minutes before the top of the hour, like 5 minutes to 9, a lot of the older people will leave at 9. And if you wait until like 10 after, they stay till the next hour. And I think there's some truth to that. So if it's just a little bit after 9 and it looks like the older people are getting a little bored, I will play 2 or maybe 3 slow songs. And not always old, not always like,
Soul and Inspiration or Percy Faith. Percy Sledge.
Percy Sledge. I was like, I've never.
Percy Faith. I just made that up. I do that a lot.
Like it's really easy to go to Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
But really, that's like grandma or great
grandma's music.
And so there's some great slow songs. There, country slow songs. People that like country will get out and dance. So, a go-to song for me for a slow song if they're into country is Neon Moon, and that's an older song.
It is.
And so I'll do some older songs to make sure that they feel included. And then when I bring it back, instead of going straight into hip hop, even if it's later in the night, I might play old time rock and roll. And then old time rock and roll mixes really good into hip hop. So you can mix it into like a Black Eyed Peas song or
sure.
That. So
I've never tried that. I got to give that a try. That's not something I would just like intuitively think. So I want to try that.
We do stuff all the time, and I'll turn to my assistant and Katy, and I'll be like, write that one down.
Good mix.
I wouldn't have thought of that, you know?
Right.
So I have to go through my notes now that it's the end of the wedding season and write all that stuff down that really works good together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's your log from, like, being out there and creating while you're there. I mean, it's what makes what we do really thrilling.
And Robert Kruger was really an inspiration for me because we've had these long conversations about, transitions and going from like a slow song to a fast song and how to transition smoothly.
Sure.
And so I think about that now, thanks to him. Like I'm very conscious of, if I'm switching transitions from like hip hop to oldies or
Hmm.
slow to fast, I think about what's going to flow and not feel like what they talked about in radio school that I took, was dropping people off a cliff. And it's hard now because people
Wait,
listen to all kinds.
explain dropping people off a cliff.
Okay, so when I trained to be on the radio,
Hmm.
they used to talk about dropping people off a cliff, like going from, like Black Eyed Peas to Frank Sinatra.
Right. It's like boom, where the energy drops off, energy, tempo, everything just.
Yeah, and I think that people are less sensitive to that now.
Oh,
Because
interesting.
Pandora and Spotify and all those kind of things, you just it just plays whatever it plays. There's no like worry about if these two songs go together,
So people have become accustomed to crappy mixing.
or just to go from one genre to the next. I think that people now kids, 10-year-old kids are asking for Don't Stop Believing.
Oh yeah.
Like they just, or Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm like, how
Hmm.
do you even know that song?
Right. I know. It came up
So,
on my Pandora.
yeah, I think that people now have this wide variety of genre um, influences
Yeah,
in
the
their.
taste. That there's a much broader palette of tastes now.
Yeah, and so you can get away with that, but it still doesn't feel right as a DJ. That's why you're not just turning on the radio at your wedding.
Right.
Because you want to have a flow.
Hmm.
And so I really concentrate on the flow and try to think about how it's going to go and make it seem like not one song ends and the next one begins, but like it's all one song. You know?
Right, right. So what would be an example of a good transition from a like a faster song to a slower song?
From a faster song to a slower song. So you mean specific songs?
Yeah.
Oh boy, I should pull up my Serato playlist. But let's see. So okay, so sometimes like the wobble was really popular.
Hmm.
So it's not a very fast song.
No.
First Stop is not a very fast song. So if I'm going from like I don't know, the Time by Black Eyed Peas
Hmm.
into the wobble, like I might put a song in between there, or I will loop something and slow it down until I get to the right BPM to get into the wobble.
Hmm.
And then maybe I probably wouldn't go into an older person song after that. The wobble comes late. But if I was going to slow it down for like the younger crowd, maybe after that would go into like, I don't know, like a Jason Mraz song or Avett
Something
Brothers.
acoustic, something guitar and acoustic, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of that one guy that I really like.
Because Jason Mraz songs are a little bit more, I would say, poppy rather than like romantic songs. You know what I mean? It's kind of like da, 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 we are
Like,
in love. Da, da, da.
yeah, and it's slow enough that people can couple dance to it if they want.
Hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's still a slow dance song.
Right, but it has some energy to it.
Hmm.
So,
So that
yeah.
would dictate your choice, like coming out of. So you'd look for a slow song that has a little bit of energy to it, a little bit of snap to it, to be able to transition, say, out of something that's like the wobble, which is, is a slower beat, fairly decent intensity song, popularity wise, and to be able to kind of roll into that. So it's a comfortable roll.
And you can even go with a song that starts like Shout.
Hmm.
He's like, yeah, and it doesn't really mix, but it creates a transition.
Yeah, you could
So
lay the vocals over a lot of things.
Right. So even though it can flow because the beat doesn't start right away. So you can flow from like a faster song or from a more modern song. So
Right.
and I do it on the fly so much. Like
Mm-hmm.
I before the wedding, I worry about what I'm gonna say. I practice reading my love story and the
Uh-huh.
grand entrance, and I always feel like, oh, the music, I got that. So this summer, I've been actually making a playlist and having a plan, and it helps. But I still, it's not like I know what I'm gonna play. I know, like I have this 2 hours of dance music that they requested, and as long as they're not like really adamant that I only play those songs, I just kind of go with the crowd.
Well, I mean, have you, as a result of that, have you kind of discovered that, like, you don't necessarily need to have all the colors on your palette labeled and organized and put in order for you to just take those colors and create an experience while you're DJing? Like it comes to you enough. In other words, it's working. It's like,
Yeah, well, yeah, I would say it just comes to me because I can feel the energy.
mm-hmm.
And I had this the very first time I DJ'd a wedding. I had this guy that I worked for, and if a song didn't work, he just cut it off and go to the next one
He'd
within
dump
30
out of
seconds.
it and go somewhere else.
Yeah, and it was maybe not the smoothest transitions that he did, but I got that you don't have to play the whole song if it doesn't work. You can get out of
How
it.
yeah, I mean that's really good. I mean that's, especially if it's not working, it's like, why dwell? It's like, well, it's a 6 minute song. This is gonna be a long time with an empty dance floor. It's like, why not get out and do something that they seem to react to more.
Exactly.
So tell me about what is it? How much do you tend to play complete songs from beginning to end, or do you tend to just do pieces of songs, or how does that kind of work into your programming?
I tend to play complete songs a lot. Not if they're 6 minute long songs, but I think that if you switch the song too quick, if it's a young crowd, that's different.
Mm-hmm.
I've had several couples tell me, like, we don't want the remixes, or, we don't want you to cut off our song, just play the
Oh,
hook. Now, I think
that's an
for
odd
him,
request.
yeah, I've had more than one say that. So I think if it's hip hop, yes, you can like play the hook. Like a lot of times with Katy Perry and those bands, I have all these remixes that are just 2 minutes long, and they pretty much just go through the chorus.
Sure.
I think for older music, you really should play the song.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And why is that? Why do you differentiate that? Because the audience that digs that is going to be like, oh, they're going to like the whole song, whereas the younger audience is going to be like, hey, 20 seconds of the best part is fine with me. Are we moving on yet?
Yeah, I think that younger people have a short attention span, and I think a lot of the older music is very lyric intense. Like
Hmm.
the lyrics mean something, and the times that I've cut off songs early that were older songs, a lot of times people will be like, "Oh, why'd you quit? Why'd you do that?" Like because I get excited. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is gonna beat match right into this
Right,
other song."
right. Great mix point.
I like got it, and I just drop it, and then people are like, "Oh."
Yeah. No, I've experienced that too, especially with Moni Moni
Yeah.
and Footloose. I can't mix out a Footloose because they're gonna be like, "There's a part. I love
Yeah.
that part." Everybody loves some part of the song.
Well, and Love Shack is the same way. Like it's so long. I never want to play the whole thing. But if you don't get to the tin roof rusted part, people are like, "What?"
Right, right. Or if you like
It's
just do that
cute,
and then
like
jam into something
something else.
else, it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, we weren't ready to be done with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then deal with that, and then there's really no going back. It's like, oh, well, let me just switch it back. Oh no, well, you lost
Yeah,
it. The
right.
mood
You
is
ruined
gone.
it.
Right? It's like one of
Caroline
those.
is another one. Like you don't want to cut off Sweet Caroline. I did see a mix on Facebook that I thought was pretty cool with Sweet Caroline, and I forget what the other song was, but
Is it a
I
mashup?
just it was a mash. It was a mashup, but it was really just a mix. It was like a beat match.
Oh, okay.
Um, but it would have worked better as a mashup because even me watching it, I was like, "Oh wow, they weren't really done with that other with Sweet Caroline,"
Right, right.
It was
Right.
like people were dancing, and then they were like, "Wait a minute,
This is changing.
you know?"
Right? Like they're being teleported and they don't understand what's going on.
Right.
Or something. Wow, Courtney, I tell you, time always flies in this show, and we've already come to the end, and I feel like that we've got hours and hours and hours of conversation still to have. So you need to come back and be a guest again on Mobile Music Thursday, because there's more there's more talk that we need to do about how you play music. It's been really insightful.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for being a guest on Mobile Music Thursday. Courtney Hampton is out of Breckenridge, Colorado, and her company is Hampton Entertainment. A DJ, 14 years in the business and tearing it up in that region, making great experiences for folks. Hey, check out the Bill and Jason Show. It happens on Mondays. Bill and I talk about all kinds of things from technology to DJs in the news and everything in the world of the life of mobile DJ. We try to put in there. And additional some other stuff, too, that just happens to leak in. Check it out. It's Mondays right here on DJNTV. That's it for another week of Mobile Music Thursday. This is Jason Jones saying so long.
Thanks.